I can see you, and you look amazing. I feel like I've been outdone this week. I'm going to say, I'm going to put my hands up. I've been outdone. Choose love. You look incredible.
Well, thank you. All right, should we get going?
Well, yeah, that's why we're here, baby. I'm here to celebrate good times, and we're going to party like it's 1999.
Like it's 1989.
Let's get to it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Icebreakers podcast. This is season 2, episode 6, and yes, the 80s are back, baby. And I am here with my fabulous 80s disco diva, Frankie Seaman. Frankie, how was your week?
My week was amazing. Now, I know you've got your Choose Love t-shirt on, but I'm wearing my Frankie Says Relax t-shirt. I don't know if you can see this. I'm just going to tilt my screen. Frankie Says Relax. We're going back. This is 1983. I think I hit my prime in 1983, so I am loving the throwback.
Well, hopefully once or twice this episode I will say, Frankie, just relax. Because I have a feeling we're going to get there. Because this episode, there's a lot to talk about. We had cassette tapes, we had the boom boxes, and we had the big bangs, or as you guys like to say in England, fringe. But 80s can go one of two ways, correct? 80s can either be amazing, or 80s can be not so amazing. And I just, this week on Dancing on Ice, I don't know what to say, because the skating was better, but I don't know, Frankie, your thoughts, because I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it.
I know, and I wanted to be all over it. Like, I love the 80s, and I was like, it's going to be a party on the ice. There's going to be some banging tunes, banging tracks, which granted, I actually really loved the music. I was a little disappointed maybe with not being quite so outrageous with the makeup. Obviously, I've gone full blush because, you know, the 80s was all about excess. And I feel like the 80s was the cusp of, you know, the real party scene. So, you know, we'd had the 70s disco, and that was kind of tame by comparison, a little bit underground by comparison, but the 80s was out and proud and in your face, and maybe tonight's show wasn't quite that.
Well, and I think it started off on a really sort of low tone, because there wasn't a group number or a pro number or anything. It literally just, the show came live, and then it went straight to the opening skate on, which again was just really flat. I mean, they had an opportunity here to really set the 80s scene. I mean, you had the birth of MTV. You had the birth of just all of this incredible music culture. And it just went, and here's our skating stars. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just really felt like the show started on a...
Ah, excuse you. Yeah, it was kind of flat. Yeah, I agree with you. I was surprised as well. Maybe it's because they didn't have much time, because they had this team skate, which, by the way, I hate. So maybe that was part of the reason why they snip, cut the opening Zha-Zha-Zoom, which we all expected.
I mean, I'm not expecting like a massive production number, but what I really felt it needed was embellish on that skate on. Okay, fair enough. You didn't have a lot of rehearsal time because we had the team challenge this week. But at the same token, give them an extra count of 8 so that it creates something rather than just skate out of the tunnel, do a tiny, tiny little trick, and stop and bow or wave. You know, and then too, with Stephen and Holly's opening monologue-ish, they concentrated so heavily on their own looks, and the couples were in the background, just stood there looking like it just was so awkward. I just didn't feel like it had been thought out all that well.
Yeah, it was a little bit sleepy, and we needed a little bit to be a little bit more wake me up before you go. I feel like, I mean, Stephen was an 80s god, obviously, unrecognizable in his giant
That wig was
hairpiece.
amazing.
The wig was amazing. I feel like Holly wasn't particularly 80s. I didn't think she was embracing her 80s self this year, or this week. Maybe she was kind of a little bit of a disco diva, but I thought she was a bit more 70s for me.
Well, she said that dress was vintage 80s. So she had a throwback to the 80s, but I'm sure on the lookbook this week, which is our bonus episode, you and Alex are going to go through all of those looks and all of those creatives to really kind of break down what we saw on that, because we saw a lot.
Perms, crimps, and makeup. That's right. We'll see you on the lookbook. But I'll tell you what I did like. I loved the opening graphics, the way that they changed up the Dancing on Ice graphic to give it like that Max Headroom type feel. I like that a lot.
Very Atari, very 80s video game. All right, well, let's just dive right into this. First up to skate was Michaela and Mark, skating to Venus. Judges across the boards gave them 8.5s, which totaled a 34. Jane thought it was, she wants more intertwining, and we'll talk about this in just a second. Ashley said that it was solid. Odie loved the different bit of energy that she brought to this one from last week. And then Chris talked a lot about the holds, that he wants to see more holds. Now, this one to me, Frankie, the performance, she's a great skater, right? But the performance just felt flat. And I think I agreed with the judges is that there could have been a little bit more intricacy without making it difficult. Because remember, we said Mark sometimes is such a great choreographer that he can make his performances too difficult for the celebrity. This one, I just felt like they kind of got lost.
Do you know what? I want to dance with somebody, and that somebody is Michaela. I disagree with you. I thought it was a great way to open the show. I thought it was high energy. I thought it was preppy and fun and juicy. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a little bit toned down from last week in terms of the intricacy of the choreography, as you said. But I feel like Mark here can't win for losing. You know, they're saying to him now, we want more intimacy. Go back to look what you were doing when you did The Sound of Music. Well, it's not an intimate routine. Or this week or last week they said they wanted more breathing space. Or this week he didn't do as difficult a choreography, and then they said it was a little bit simple. I think it was the opening routine. I don't think they really had anything to compare it to. Granted, they watched the rehearsals, and so when their remarks came in and when their scoring came in, I thought, oh, okay, well that's decent. But then, of course, as the night went on, everybody just kind of leapfrogged over them, and I personally was quite shocked.
I think it was, like you said, Mark can't win to lose. And I think they're being extra critical on Michaela because her skating skills are there, and also because we know what Mark can do in his greatness, right? Now, is that fair though? You know, why are they putting so much extra pressure on one particular couple or one particular pro when the other couples go out there and it's really bland and they don't get any critique on the choreography or the intricacy or the intertwining on all of that? Now, I do have to agree with what Ashley said, is that she's a very solid skater. The creativity this week felt a little bit flat. Now, given the track, Venus, it is a fast track, but it's almost mid-tempo, right? Mid-tempos are really hard, and you're going to hear us talk a lot about that in this episode because the 80s music had a lot of mid-tempo music. But Ashley really wants to see a performance, as we've seen in the past from Michaela, that moves us. How the hell do you do Venus and make it move you? Unless you get on a rocket ship and go to Venus.
Pow! I don't know. Honestly, I don't think they really knew what to say. And I was writing stuff down and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I thought it was zesty. I thought it was fruity. I thought they had the best time with this track. I thought it was like a little bundle of joy that came out and kind of hit us with the 80s. And I thought it kind of set the tone for the 80s. Okay, Ashley said that she was such a strong skater and blah, blah, blah. He complimented her skating skills, which normally I would do. And that was the only thing I disagreed with Ashley, because I thought, well, she had a few stumbles. You know, she came out of one of the spins. Her foot was sideways. She didn't quite carry that round, which we normally see Michaela, you know, she's very solid on that. So I'm surprised the judges didn't pick up on it. There was a few little stumbles, but she was first out, and we've seen Michaela skate first a lot, or skate early on in the program a lot. They use her a lot to open the show, or kind of get the show, set the tone for the show. So I don't know. I just thought they were very harsh on Michaela this week, and the fact that she ended up second to the bottom of the leaderboard. I mean, I personally was fuming.
Well, second to the bottom of the leaderboard with 8.5s. Like, is that because the standard is so good or because they're overmarking?
It's bonkers. The standard isn't that good that 8.5 should be second bottom of the leaderboard. Bonkers.
Yeah.
Bonkers.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of bottom of the leaderboard, Charlie and Eric, never too much, mid-tempo. Charlie, her socks, first and foremost. Again, the socks. But unfortunately, we did lose Charlie and Eric this week. The judges, Ashley, Jane, and Chris gave her an 8, Odie 7.5, which was a total of 31.5. Chris does like to see that she was trying. Now, they all commented on her speed, which was really interesting because from the television standpoint, watching it at home, they looked fast.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was such a mixed bag tonight. I thought this had a really luxurious vibe, but I'll tell you the one thing I did write, and I'll show it to you in case you don't believe me. I wrote skate off in capitals. I don't know if you can see that.
Did you?
Yeah, as soon as she came, well, not as soon as she came out, but like halfway through the routine, I was like, this might not cut it. I didn't know if she was going to go home or not. I actually thought it might be between her and Molly, based just on what we had seen last week. But I knew that Charlie was going to be in trouble tonight. I did think that she would be in the skate off. I predicted that. It's been hard for her. She had to swap partners and then swap back, and it's really lovely to see Eric back on the ice. And you know what? If I want to dance with somebody, it would definitely be Eric as well as my second person I'd want to dance with because I am in the mood for dancing. They skated to Never Too Much, which is a really good track. She looked like Farrah Fawcett. I mean, they had a real, who's from the 70s, by the way, but she did have a really good vibe going on. It felt very luxurious. They'd based it on the Rivals. I thought that it had the big Dynasty background or the Dallas background. There was a lot going for it in terms of the creative, and then I don't know. I just think Charlie hasn't been the strongest skater even from the start when we saw that we lost. Some of the other girls. I thought perhaps that she was on a par with like Chelsea and
Hmm.
Fern, and I think she's probably done quite well to get as far as she has.
Gosh, Chelsea and Fern. I'd completely forgotten about them. That is how fast this series is moving. Wow. Well, unfortunately, we did lose Charlie, and we'll go through her skate off performance as well a little bit later. But well done, Charlie. Congratulations. Eric, it was great to see you back, as Frankie said. And yeah, unfortunately, their time on Dancing on Ice is over. All right, skated third, Dan and Vanessa. To Faith, one of my all-time favorite tracks, hence my George Michael as well. First off, before we actually get into this performance, that was his mom?
I know. Hi, Mom.
She looks amazing.
She looks spot on. And also, this week Dan had the huge hairpiece. I think he was trying to emulate you. It's like, who wore it best, you or Dan? Because honestly, I'm like surrounded by George Michael in stereo, and I'm loving life right now. I think we all wish it was Raining Men like Dan, to be honest. But he skated to Faith from 1987. He was a bit tripsy, though. Do you think he was a bit tripsy?
A little bit, a little bit. And the judges really didn't pick up on that. Like, they scored him 9.5s across the board, which totaled 38. That is just 2 points off of a perfect score. Now, I am a huge champion of Dan and Vanessa, but I agree with you. It just didn't have the smoothness that we had last week. And I don't know if it was the music or there was so much pressure on him, or as you and Alex talk about on the lookbook, when you wear a wig, it can throw you off. And I'm assuming that was a wig, right?
Yeah, definitely. Or pieces that were weaved in. Or I don't know, some sort of like furry animal that someone forgot to remove that was just Velcro to his head. It was a huge. Talk about frostings.
They saw something different in the studio than what we saw at home on TV, because Ashley said, he was relaxed and composed. It was his. I did agree that it was probably one of his best skates yet, as far as the whole package and the performance. But like you said, there were little bits in there that were a little bit trippy. The only thing that I would say with him would be in and out of the lifts. He loses his character. And I understand, as the male celebrity, that is the time that you have to concentrate the most, going into a lift and out of the lift, because that is the most dangerous part of the lifts, right? However, we have talked about this before on this show, is practice and rehearse with that performance face so that when you get to the show, it's already plastered there. So you don't have to think about that anymore. So for me, that would be the only thing of how do we get him to a 10? Obviously skate clean and work on those tiny, tiny little moments that the character breaks.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was as close to a 10 this week as the judges made out, if I'm honest. I think I would have marked him maybe nines at most because of the amount of trips that I saw between the two of them, and it made me a little bit nervous. And there were some moments as well where I felt like the speed came to a standstill or certainly slowed down a lot. And obviously we have the on-ice camera, which can help it to look like it's still moving, but I'm not being fooled by that. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised by how much higher he was marked than Michaela. If we look at the leaderboard, I would say he and Michaela are very, very close. And I think for me, she's usually the more quality skater. So I was surprised at how much that gap was between him and Michaela by the end of the show.
Absolutely. And I do have to agree completely with Odie. Her, again, I'll say this again. Her comments are just nail on the head. She said she really loves the action and reaction of their partnership. And that is something that professional couples do, especially when something might go wrong. You really have to have that concentration with your other partner so that you can speak to each other without actually speaking to each other by, keeping that the eyesight there. And that is something that they're doing innately, is this action and reaction. It's really nice to see this develop between two people who have only known each other for a couple of months.
And that's something that OT would know a lot about. Obviously, she's partnered her whole life as well, and she'll have been in many situations where her partner has dropped the ball and she's had to pick it up and run with it. And that's how it is on Dancing on Ice. You never know what your celebrity partner's going to do, so you've always got to be ready to step in and guide them through it. So that's a lovely thing to see. It's a lovely part of the partnership, of course.
Do you think we're going to see Dan and Vanessa in the final?
I do. I think the judges love them. They're obviously the judges' favourites. And we're all human. We all have favourites. So I definitely think that if it's down to the way things are going, then yeah. I mean, there's only 3 weeks left. So of course they're on this kind of running streak. So yes, I would assume they'd be in the final. I already have my sort of top tips for the final. In fact, you guys at home, you should tell us who you think your top tips for the final are.
Yes, please. Give us a comment. We want to know, going into, like Frankie said, we're basically next week is the quarterfinals. We want to know from you guys who you think should make the semifinals and also who you should think should make the final based upon the run so far of this series. All right. Moving on to Molly and Colin.
But we didn't mention the leap of faith from Dan and Vanessa. And
Oh, yes. Sorry. Thank you for catching me on that. I wanted to talk about that. Go for it.
well, I just think it was probably brushed over a little bit. Christopher Dean mentioned it a little bit, but actually, that's a really, really tough trick to do. The girl leaps, she can't see where the guy is. It takes a whole lot of trust, and she just literally throws herself into his arms and hopes that he's there to catch her. And I've seen that go terribly wrong. In fact, our good friend Brianne, she and I worked together, gosh, 30 years ago, and her professional partner missed the catch on that, and she went flying across the ice. And we all know Brianne, she's feisty. She was not happy, and rightly so. It can go really, really badly, really, really quickly. So thankfully, Brianne was okay. Thankfully, tonight, Vanessa was okay. I thought they did it perfectly. What do you think?
They did. And I have to give credit where credit is due on that, because the leap of faith, even though at home, and if you don't know skating, you're going to think that Dan's position of him standing still is easier in the leap of faith. But what happens in skates, because it's science and it's inertia and it's mass in motion, it actually is easier to stand up. What's that?
Oh my
What?
God, you're going all like geeky, and my head just exploded.
Geek chic, babe. Okay, where was I? So it's actually easier to stand up when you're skating forwards or skating backwards when you have movement. But when you stand still, and as Vanessa did, Vanessa is moving, jumps, and then Dan has to catch her while he's standing still. There is a lot that can go wrong unless you are firmly planted on that ice if you're not moving. He probably had a toe pick in to sort of anchor him or something like that. The weight in his feet needs to be absolutely perfect. So the fact that when she jumped and he caught her, there was no wobble, there was no stumble, that means he was solid. And that deserves a 10 on its own, just being able to execute that.
Honestly, that was moi, chef's kiss, and a very good explanation of that with your inertia and your mask. Get back to NASA.
Oh no, they're firing everybody right now.
It's awkward.
Awkward. Okay, moving on. Molly and Colin, time after time, one of my most favorite pieces of music from the 80s. Coming out of the gate, them in the tunnel, the creative was set up beautifully. I don't know, man. I couldn't get past Colin's wig.
Wigalicious.
That was a wig for every member of the cast included. They could have fit underneath all of that hair. It
Yeah, I feel
just
like he was in competition with Stephen on that one.
it just was a little bit too much. It was distracting. How about that? For me, it was distracting.
Yeah, but what about Molly's hair? I mean, she was a crimp
Stunning.
sensation. She looks stunning.
Absolutely stunning. And I gotta say, the second it was really nicely choreographed because they weren't stood still in the tunnel too long. It set the scene, it had a breath, and then it started skating. And I really appreciated that. I wrote down, star for the intro. And you can tell that she worked her butt off this week. The knees were bent, she came to play, her toes were pointed, and the whole thing worked as one piece, what we have been talking about for the past 6 weeks. And I feel too the judges saw that and rewarded her for that. She had 9s and 8.5s across the board, giving her 35.5. And they all commented on it, how hard she worked and how seamless and how creative this choreography was.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been very harsh on Molly and Colin, or Mollin, as I like to call them. I think they've been really harsh on them week after week, and I was surprised last week to see how low down the leaderboard she had fallen. Actually, I just didn't think it was fair. So it was nice to see them get the praise that they deserved this week, and I mean, it was a beautiful creative. She was a vision in pink. It was, it had romance. She had beautiful lines. They've commented on this on the past that she didn't think that they didn't think she was quite finished off enough. I mean, I think she's stunning. So I don't know what the judges are seeing, but I'm glad that this week they saw it and they rewarded it.
I think rightly so. Last week was just she had an off week.
Did you?
The cheerleader performance, I don't know, it just wasn't in sync. I didn't feel like they were connected. I felt like Colin was out to lunch. Like he didn't feel like he was in the studio in that performance. So I don't know what had happened. They had just, and I think you can have a bad week and not that it was bad. She still skated great, right? We're just in comparison to everybody else, but I feel this week she came to play and she slayed.
She's
Frankie, this crimp look that she had, the crimp hair, can you please do that on the bonus episode this week?
I mean, I can try. I don't have a crimper. What will I use for crimping my hair? Do you remember that time when we did, I think it was a disco or a dance week or something, and Duncan James, and we talked about this last year when we had Duncan on our bonus episode, and Duncan James, they put all those straws in his hair. They crimped his hair with straws.
Yeah,
Do you remember that? I don't know if I've got a crimper. I will have a look, but just for you, I will try my best.
thank you. Make sure you tune into the bonus episode to see this. Believe me, I'm going to.
With just hair.
Yes. All right. Moving right along, Anton and Annette, Spin Me Round. Just the most iconic track to skate to. This music was written to skate to. However, it's a really hard piece to skate to. And the creative that they were given, which is video games, I felt, again, was really difficult. Dancing and Ice gave H and I, Ian Watkins from Steps, a video game 80's piece when we had skated, and it was the demise of us. Like, we fought that week for the first time ever, because it's just a bland character. You can't really build too much into it unless you go to something like Sonic the Hedgehog, right? But Sonic wasn't around in the 80's. We've got like Stickman and Atari and Pitfall and Space Invaders, okay, they could have done robots, but then again, it's like, I don't know. How do you add upon that?
Yeah, it was tricky. And after the skate off last week, when the going gets tough, the only way is up, baby. And I think when you get given a creative that is now a video game, you probably look at each other and go, what am I supposed to do with this? We're fighting for survival. But you know what I think about Anton and Annette? I think he's so solid and so secure, and he's so confident now that when he goes into that skate off, he could probably skate off his way to the final. Put him in that skate off against anybody. The judges can place them where they want, and they can say what they want about them. And actually, they were very complimentary this week. But you know what? You'd be hard pushed to beat him in a skate off, and don't forget he's done it twice now, so he's got the most experience.
He is the skate off assassin.
I like that. Pow, pow, pow!
The judges did score him 9s across the board, and Odie gave him an 8.5, which was 35.5, which tied him with Molly, which was very interesting. Two completely different pieces of music. One of them kind of gave me the feels. Anton and Annette's, I just felt was really flat. Yes, he's a fantastic skater. The tricks that he did the overhead ballet lift, which is a very hard lift because it is a deadlift. And what I mean by that is the girl can't really help, right?
Yeah,
You
I
know
mean,
how much
obviously,
I hate this lift because you and I have done it quite a bit. And I always say, I don't want to do the ballet lift.
yeah, I actually really quite like it because I don't have to do much. It's lovely. But
I
yes,
literally
I
just
know.
sit there.
It's really hot actually. I did this lift with one of my celebrity skaters back in 2007 with Lee Sharp, and it's a really also a footballer. So I don't know, maybe it's a footballing thing. Maybe they teach them this in training. Maybe you can only get into the Premier League if you can manage a ballet lift or a stag lift, as I like to call it. He did it exquisitely. There is a real knack. There's a real art to this ballet lift. The minute it gets away from you, you lose all of your strength. You have to have it close to you, but then you run the risk of catching each other's blades at the back, or the boy catching the girl's blades at the back. It's a really, really tricky lift. And then the minute it goes up, it tends to rock back. He was solid. He was like butter, and I was really, really impressed with him. But they did the
Solid as
aeroplane
a
again. Were you going to sing then?
solid as a rock.
Do, 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 do.
The judges did say that he is rough around the edges. He still needs to stand up. And the funny thing is they worked a lot in training this week on his posture, but his default is hunch my back, lean down to a net, right? It's still there. We can't deny the fact that it's still the posture isn't there.
Look, he's not trained to stand up. He's trained to look down at his feet and look at the ball, keep his eye on the ball. He's not trained to look up and project to an audience. And this is part of the dancing on ice journey, You're not just ice skating, which he's very, very good at. You are also learning to be a performer. And it's not natural to him. He is a diamond in the rough. I like that he's a diamond in the rough. I feel like it's more authentic that way. I feel like, well, he wasn't trained to do this. So this makes it even harder, which makes me think, well, I'm even more impressed.
Very good. And I completely agree with you on that. Yeah, if he can show up next week in Musicals Week and show us a bit of posture, I will say he is the most improved. However, I do have to say, one major criticism here. This goes for all the couples. That airplane spin that we have seen a lot. Not only have we seen the airplane spin a lot, it's always in the same spot, right in front of the judges. Put the
Also,
airplane spin somewhere else.
Also, with the aeroplane spin, you do realize there are about 5 different variations you could be doing, people. Like, why is it always this reverse one where the girl's like scraping her toe pick on the ice? Why can't it be the forward aeroplane spin or the inside out aeroplane
Spin.
spin? There's so many, yeah, the stag, like there's so many different variations. She can grab her leg, she can do it with the other arm. It's bonkers. I don't get it, people. Like, who's teaching this stuff? Sort it out.
Well, who's not policing this stuff to be like, oh, hey, so and so has that same trick in that same spot? Because what if they put them back to back? Then you're looking at identical choreography. So, and like you said, that's fine. If you don't have a lot of tricks up your sleeve, there are so many different variations to each trick. Make it look a little bit different. Surprise us.
Honestly, that reverse aeroplane spin needs to go away and never come back. I've seen about 50 million of them this year, and I'm bored already. Stop.
Put it in the bin. All right, Sam and Molly, Push It. Again, one of my favorite tracks. Skating sixth and last. Nice little cameo there from Andy Wynot from Coronation Street. Oh, a really good point from Sam himself at the start of that VT when he said, I am not funk and I am not hip hop. So this was a really hard challenge for him.
Well, you could have blown the bejesus out of me because I thought literally, I thought Salt and Pepper were on the ice. He was giving me the biggest, hippiest, hoppiest, booboppy vibe. Honestly, I was so impressed.
I loved I loved the creative. I loved how it started. Having Andy there as the DJ, I thought was perfect. The boombox was amazing. Probably one of the best set pieces I've ever seen. And I gotta say, I agree with you. White boy got moves. White boy can dance on
He was
ice.
a joy to watch. I just loved every minute of this routine. I wanted to see it again.
The judges didn't like it as much. Ashley gave him a 9. Odie, Jane, and Chris gave him 8.5s, which was very surprising. 34.5. Nobody really gave him a critique as to why the scores were lower than half of the other couples. I was very confused.
I was a little bit angry about this. I think they're knocking his confidence with this, and he's actually a really good skater, and nobody seems to be giving him any credit for his skating skills, which are supreme. I don't understand really. I think his attitude is incredible. It's amazing. Like every time they give him a different creative, we've seen him do Jungle Book. We've seen him do so many different creatives and looks and types of choreography, and he doesn't seem to get the credit. And they're always talking about we want variety, we want originality. This guy has it in spades. Every week he comes to the ice, and you don't know who's going to show up. And every week he completely performs his little socks off. I don't know what it is, why he's getting left behind. I'm not sure if Molly maybe needs to kind of go back to the drawing board perhaps and have a little think, a little look at where they can refresh things.
And I think, yeah, you're right. Molly, it's her first year, so this is unknown territory for her as well. And I will say this, Molly, if you need help, by all means, reach out to somebody who has done the show before, talk to production, talk to Dan and Karen, because they are there to help. Do not feel like you can't ask for help. If you're feeling like, I don't know what to do, we've gotten this far, but it's kind of now getting out of my hands a little bit, and how come we're not seeing or hearing all of the praise and seeing the scores from the judges as he should be getting? And I have to correct myself. Chris did give him a note or of a critique to help raise those scores, and that is, don't let the performance throw you off. And you and I have talked about that all the time, that you've got to train that performance, because when you get to that show and you do it extra, it can throw you off.
Yeah, it's a shame because I feel like he's kind of plateauing, and I'm not sure, what else they've got in their bag to bring out week after week after week. And it's a shame because his skating is amazing. But I do feel that now their biggest challenge is going to be to try and catch up everybody else with the tricks.
And I think, yeah. However, if he goes out there and blows us out of the water with some really original piece of choreography, something very emotive, something beautiful, I'm really intrigued to know what they have next week on musicals, because his skating is so good. And if they can put a piece together that is flawless, like we saw with Molly tonight, that could bump him back up. You don't need tricks. I'm sorry. You don't need the tricks to cover up. Because a lot of teams sometimes use the big tricks to cover up the fact that their skating isn't that good.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you 100%. So I think I hate to sound like a judge, but I think just originality is what is going to be the key to their success.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, and then we had the team challenge. Frankie's favorite thing on the planet.
Oh God, I think I fell asleep during this bit. I'm sorry. The team challenge. It's time to make your mind up. I mean, well, first of all, okay, they skated to Two Tribes, which you and I and Dan Wiston skated to as a trio. Now, Two Tribes was one of my favorite routines. I loved it. I was really pleased to see them echo some of our choreography, like they actually did. Our whole piece in the center there, they stole, not stole, I shouldn't say stole, they were inspired by our choreography. They were inspired by our piece. I love that. It was really nice to see it. I was like, oh, hey, there we are. This was us skating back in the day. So I really enjoyed that. But the whole fashion icon thing, I wasn't sure about. What did you think to that?
It left me really confused, because at the time I was making notes. I was trying to scribble down who was on each team. So you had on team one was Dan, Molly, and Anton. Team two was then Michaela, Charlie, and Sam. And as I was scribbling things down, I looked up and I went, okay, I get Dan, Molly, and Anton's costume, but what the hell did Michaela, Charlie, and Sam have on? Like, I was like literally Les Mis, and I think Alex had even texted us to say, are they in the wrong costumes? And then I realized that they were Team Gautier and Team Westwood. So I was like, oh, okay. Was there, I don't know if I just missed it in the VT, like I wasn't paying attention, but I,
But I don't like team skate anyway. I just think it's a waste of my time. And actually, at the end of the day, it didn't change anything. So I had to sit through it all. I mean, it was nice to reminisce about Two Tribes, but after that, I was like, I don't really want to sit through all of this. And then it didn't make a difference. So why were we even here, people? What's the point of team skate? I don't get it.
yeah, it's a lot of effort for potentially a lot of nothing, and we got that potentially a lot of nothing out of it because it didn't change anything. It just filled part of the time slot, and it I don't know about you guys at home, but it left me very confused. You don't know where to look because everybody's dressed identical on each team, so you have to really pick out, because like of course you're going to watch this for your favorites, but then you can't figure out where your favorites are because there's so many people on the ice and it cuts back and forth so quickly. And I have to say, if I see one more routine that has, like when there's a duel, where they point at each other as they skate past each other, it's like one of the biggest rules in film is don't point, right? It just is like, I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it.
Angry pointing. I didn't enjoy it either, and we saw more flipping aeroplanes. I was like, okay, at that point, they kind of lost me. I was done. If you saw me pull a face right then, it's because one of my foster kittens has just grabbed my toe with his little claws, and I daren't move because he's so shy. He's never grabbed me before, so I'm really pleased that he's doing it. He's playing with my feet right now, and it's absolutely killing me. But I'm so happy that he's interacting with me. So sorry if I keep pulling a face. I didn't enjoy the team scare. I'd much rather watch my foster kittens. There we go.
Well, and if, yeah, I was going to say, if you don't know, Frankie is a constant supporter of a few feline charities and is always fostering newborn kittens, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. These are a little bit older, but yeah, newborn kittens. These ones are ferals, and this one hasn't reached out to me yet at all, and currently he's attached to my foot, which can't be pleasant for him, let's face it. Let's hope he survives that.
Brilliant. Within this team challenge, there were 3 points up for grab for the winning team, which then ended up getting given to Team Gautier, which was Dan, Molly, and Anton. Again, those 3 points did nothing to the leaderboard. So let's move on.
Can you just cut that whole entire section out of our podcast? 'Cause I feel like there was no point.
I'm sorry if we
Literally,
have bored you.
what was the point?
Yeah. All right, so if we do have a look at that leaderboard, Dan and Vanessa, this is after the team challenge, had a score of 41. Molly, Colin, Anton, and Annette were tied there in second with 38.5. Sam and Molly, 34.5, coming in on fourth place. Michaela and Mark at 34 at fifth. Charlie and Eric, 31.5 at sixth.
I think you had a point as we were texting, as we were chatting while we were watching the show with Alex. I think you had a point about the tie breaks, the ties.
Yes, thank you. So if you actually go back, and of course it's in my face in black and white because we make notes for this show. As we're watching the show, I write down all the scores, the judges, and then I line them up to see who's doing what, what's giving what. And week after week now, we are seeing a lot of ties. And the judges are pretty consistent within their individual scorings of each couples. I just feel we need to see a little bit more variety with judges.
Yeah, I mean, tie after tie after tie, and then it makes the leaderboard so short. So it's of course it's going to put people more in danger.
Yeah, and I feel too, it's like we know that everybody has an opinion when it comes to their performances. And those opinions should. Okay, let me put it this way. When in a competition like this, you do not have to give the same score to different couples because they probably didn't skate exactly equal, right? There would have been a little bit of a performance or a little bit of a more artistic score higher on one couple, or somebody was a better skater with another couple.
Oh God, he's getting serious, people. He's gone into his notebook. He's pulling out his notes. I feel like my head teacher at school is just
Right.
about to have a little go at me.
So let's do this. How about Molly, Anton, and Sam all were scored 9 by Ashley, meaning he tied all 3 couples, right?
I
And I know it varies across the board. Like Odie gave Molly a 9, Odie gave Anton an 8.5, and then she gave Sam an 8.5. What we could do here is your top level skater, you get to see the rehearsals, so you have a baseline. You understand where people are going to potentially fall within that leaderboard. There are 6 couples. We're probably not going to see a 10 week 5, or sorry, week 6, as we were this week. So let's drop that to the top score of 9 or 9.5, which is what they did. But then each person gets their own mark, right? So you then go, let's say their top score was 9.5. You then 9, an 8.5, an 8, a 7.5, and a 7. But the fact that we're seeing the same scores through multiple people on multiple judges does not make sense in my head, and I think that's why the viewers at home are so confused.
Oh, it's annoying. And actually, you should, if you're basing your baseline mark on the rehearsals that you're seeing in the afternoon, you should in your head imagine, no matter what you see, that rehearsal in the evening is going to be perfect. So if that was a perfect routine, I would give that a 7. If that was a perfect routine, I'd give that a 9.5, simply because it's got more technical content in it, or more choreography, or more difficulty in it, compared to the one that I just thought was a 7. Based on of what you think would be a perfect routine, then on the night, if they don't perform it perfectly, then you've got a little bit of leeway to drop it up and down. But you've got your base score. A 7, for example, would be a kind of a basic routine that you didn't think was that great anyway, even if it was perfect. And a 9.5 is one that, you know, if they do it perfectly, they could blow out the water.
Yeah. Like if Charlie skated perfectly, her top score would be, for her, a 7.5 or an 8.
Right.
So Anton, if he skates perfectly, as we saw tonight, he had a 9 for this week. Now, if Anton made a mistake, that would only drop him down a point. So he still should be scored higher than Charlie. And I'm using this as an example. That did not happen tonight. But those are the kind of things that we need to think about when scoring. And I'm probably going to get a lot of hate about it, but it's something that drives me bonkers, because I hear all the time from people who watch the show, I don't understand the scoring. So.
That's just me. Same.
But there you go. Okay, so swiftly moving along.
I've lost my notes. So you're just going to have to take a second, because I've lost my notes. I got clawed to death by a kitten. I was trying to get a picture of him while you were having your little rant. I apologise for that. I've found my notes again. Crack on, as you will.
I wasn't having a rant. I think it just was a little bit... I wanted to explain what I see in black and white when I'm taking my notes. And to me, I'm like, why did he score, or why did she score them the same score when they were two completely different skill levels, right?
No, it was very well explained. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I got my notes now.
Oh, right. The skate off. Charlie against Anton. And I think we all knew what was going to happen. I think Charlie knew what was going to happen. Her face killed me in that skate off, because I think she just knew. She was like, I'm going home. And I wanted her to love every second of that skate off, which we see sometimes with the celebs, as they realize, okay, my time here is done. I'm just going to enjoy this. And I felt halfway through that routine, she just kind of sank in her face and sank in her boots. Then she brought it back at the end, but I felt it actually made me feel a bit bad.
Well, this year, I think every single celebrity, perhaps maybe not Chris last week, but other than that, I think every single celebrity that I've seen has been really upset about being either eliminated or eliminated via skate off. I think we saw it with Steve, you know, and as much as he struggled with Sir Steve Redgrave, as much as he struggled, I think he was still really upset when it was all over. I think we saw the same with Fern. We saw the same with Chelsea. I mean, she was in tears. I think Fern was in tears. You know, it's been a very emotional journey, and I think this set of celebs in particular has really enjoyed the Dancing on Ice experience so much, and I think none of them really want it to be their last skate. And yeah, you're right. I think halfway through that skate off, Charlie probably thought, hang on a minute, I don't really have much chance of going through here unless Anton really stacks it. And you know, and as I said before, you know, Anton can skate his way to the final, dude, because you'd be hard pressed to beat him in a skate off. Guy is mentally ready, and that is 90% of a skate off. Like, go for it.
Yeah, anybody else left in this competition that has to go up against Anton in that skate off, that's tough, man. He's not
good luck,
because he's got that down to a T. Every skate off that he has done better than his original routine. For instance, this week, that routine that they did, there was a lift that they did in the middle of it, and it's called a puppet lift. Or the
yes.
lift. In the main routine, he set her down after one rotation and then tried to pick her up again and do another rotation. And I was like, oh, that was an interesting variation of that trick. Not knowing that it was a mistake, because in the skate off, he did it perfectly. He didn't put her down.
Exactly that. It was incredible to see. I was like, oh, a single puppet. Oh, another puppet. Thinking, like you, he hadn't quite managed to, he hadn't got the skill yet to do both, and that they had purposely choreographed him to set her down and pick her up. What an incredible skater to be able to do that. And props to Annette for not pulling out and, you know, covering it up. They both just held their nerve. I don't know if that happened before, but they just carried on as if that was entirely meant to happen. That is a sign of a really good partnership, a really strong partnership.
Absolutely. Judges unanimously voted for Anton. I voted for Anton as much as I love Charlie. I loved what she brought to to the show, the experience that she had. And again, Charlie, well done. Congratulations. And Eric, it was great to have you on the series finally this year, and I'm sure we will see a lot more of you in the future on this series and other things as well.
That's a wrap.
Almost a wrap.
Oh,
Who was your
okay.
favorite?
Tonight, for me, I'd say my favorite. Oh, I sound like I'm doing like a game show, don't I? Tonight. Oh, it's really tough. Who was my favorite? Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna let you go first because I'm struggling now.
I have to say, my favorite was Charlie. My favorite was Molly.
Ah,
Just,
yeah.
it was a whole package for me. It still needed a little bit of finesse, but for where we are, week 6, that was the whole package for me tonight.
I really enjoyed Sam. And Antoinette, actually. I really enjoyed Antoinette. Just because I love that they did the big overhead ballet lift. I want them to do something other than an aeroplane, granted, but I love that they did the ballet lift.
You need to only pick one
Oh, ooh, okay, Sam.
because
Sorry,
we
Antoinette.
just criticized the judges about how many ties and how many joint places there are, so you need to only pick one.
Sam.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this fabulous 80s week of the Icebreakers podcast. Make sure that you follow us on socials because we drop little teases and trailers throughout the week. TikTok, it's at IcebreakersPod. Instagram, at ice.breakers.pod. And also make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that when we do put up the new episodes, if it's the main episode or Frankie and Alex's bonus episode, the lookbook, that you get that notification and you can save it so that you can listen to it whenever you want. And again, make sure that you tune in later this week. We typically bring the lookbook and the bonus episodes out midweek. Frankie, this week you've got a lot to unpack with all the 80s looks, don't ya?
Yeah, but Alex and I are going to throw ourselves into it fully, so please do not miss it. We are here for you. I have to
Amen.
say, can I just say hello to my people that joined TikTok? I really appreciate it because obviously I've only been on TikTok literally 5 minutes and I don't really know how it works. So thank you so much for being here tonight on TikTok with me because I know you'd probably much rather be following Matt Evers because obviously he's the handsome one and I'm just the bird with the 80s makeup. But I really like that you guys are here. It makes me feel so like not lonely.
We do go live on TikTok while we record this episode. So if you want to see a little bit of the behind the scenes of what goes into recording the podcast, make sure you do join us Sunday nights UK time between 8:15 and 8:30. Typically takes about an hour to record. We have a lot of fun, and hello to all of my people that are on TikTok right now too. Thank you, Tori, for the what is that? Oh, she sent me an like an ice crystal.
Ooh.
How fun is that? Thank you.
Oh no, nobody sent me anything, but they're all saying hi. So hi Natalie, hi Kirsty. People are asking me to join things and all sorts. I don't even know. Vicky.
Be careful what you join. Let me just say
Oh, I'm
that.
not going to join anything. Do I not? Why?
Because sometimes I've ended up in somebody's bed with them.
Oh, maybe I should join. Hello.
I mean, it is the 80s after all, right?
You shame to waste his makeup, peeps.
Exactly. All right, well, next week is Musicals Night. Very excited about this. It's always a fantastic show. I mean, I love musicals. I'm a West End freak, a Broadway babe.
What are you coming as? What you going to be your inspo for next week? Because we've gone hard on musicals week in the past.
Oh, I mean, you were a cat, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and you were the greatest showman.
I was, but I'm not going to tell you. It's going to have to be a surprise.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, well, I'm going to have to go away and think about this so I can outdo my cat.
And next week, I'm in England with you.
So exciting! Yeah, we're going to be on the same continent, the same coast, and possibly even in the same room. Or maybe not the same room.
We're trying to make that happen, yes, but we shall see. So, thank you guys so much again. We love you all. Do all the things you need to do to make this blow up. And Frankie, I will see you same place, same time next week. Adios.